Happy Thanksgiving, y'all. Your turkey might have cost more. Driving to Grandma's house definitely did cost more. Your grocery store might have been out of green beans this year, and you might feel like you've got more than a few things to gripe about thanks to politicians who don't give a rat's behind about you and your family. And you're probably right. But today, on Thanksgiving, let's take just a minute to remember all we do have. The opportunities we enjoy every day that other people around the world would die for. And they do. Let's remember the amazing gift we've been given just to live in the greatest country on earth and why we cannot let it fail. Did you know that today, in 2021, 6 decades after we first put a man on the moon, more than 770 million people still lack access to safe water? It's true. At least 10% of the world's population consumes food irrigated by untreated wastewater, raw human sewage. About 1.7 billion, or about 1 in 4, don't have access to a toilet. It's estimated that about 432,000 people die every year due to poor sanitation that causes diseases like cholera, hepatitis A, dysentery, and typhoid. According to the World Bank, about 9.2% of the world, or 689 million people, live in extreme poverty on less than $1.90 a day. About half of those are kids. Hundreds of millions more live below their country's poverty line. About 10% of the world is considered undernourished. Action Against Hunger estimates that about 811 million people go to bed hungry every night. According to a 2019 study, more than 1 in 5 children under the age of 5 are considered stunted, meaning they aren't as tall as they should be for their age due to malnutrition. Roughly half the world lacks access to basic healthcare services. Even worse, the World Health Organization found in 2017 that about 10% of the medicines found in the world's poorest countries were counterfeit, and that at least 72,000 children die from pneumonia every year after taking fake drugs. About 150 million people around the world are homeless, with about 1.6 billion living in inadequate shelters. About 10% of the global population still doesn't have access to electricity. That's nearly 1 billion people. And those are just basic necessities. About 80% of the world's global population lives in areas where freedom of religion is highly restricted. One 2019 study found nearly half are without freedom of speech, and Reporters Without Borders estimates that only about 9% of the world lives in a country with a free press. Now, where most of you live, today is Thanksgiving. And I'm not trying to crap all over your holiday or make your pumpkin pie taste bad. It's gross all by itself. On the contrary, remembering what we do have should make us even more grateful to be in the United States of America, still the single greatest, freest country, not just in the world, but in the history of mankind. Now, we've got problems, more than a few, and I talk about them here a lot because they're important. And we should be outraged at the ridiculous garbage we see going on around us. That is 100% valid and true. But while Facebook might freeze our account for a few days and deprive us of pictures of our neighbor's dog and dinner because we posted something that some Silicon Valley brat didn't like, we can still speak our minds about politics, religion, or the fools in power without fear of being thrown in jail for it. We can go to the church we want, the stores we want, the restaurants we want, and if someone gives us a hard time about a face mask, we can order just about anything we want online. A gallon of milk might cost more today, and that's an issue, an avoidable one, actually, thanks Brandon. But the vast majority of us still lay down at night in clean, warm beds with full bellies and wake up to a pantry full of food the next morning with at least 3 appliances that we can cook it with. Most of us don't wonder where our children's next meal is coming from, or have to hike up a dirt hill for our water. When we get sick, we go to a hospital. We have access to more treatment options, drugs, and higher quality health services than we know what to do with. We may not be millionaires and the bills might get tight, but most of us have closets full of clothes and homes with functional roofs and clean running water that turns on at the twist of a handle. We get up and put shoes on our feet and send our children off to school and come home to a hot meal. We may live in a country whose borders are currently being ignored by this moronic administration, but we still live in a nation protected by the greatest fighting force the globe has ever seen. In neighborhoods guarded by police and firefighters, with men and women who voluntarily keep the watch so we can sleep at night. If we don't like our circumstances, we can work our way out of them. If we don't like our job, we can get another one. If we don't like our neighborhood, we can move. Many of us have been hit hard by COVID, the economy, and a White House that couldn't find its own rear end with both hands and a map, but few of us are starving for it. When you stop and think about it, the amount with which we have been blessed, not just stuff, but opportunities, is mind-blowing. Down to the smallest things we take for granted every day, because they're just a routine part of our American lives. Because whether by choice or by happenstance, we live in the United States of America. This is why we fight so hard to protect and preserve it, to hand it down to our children and our grandchildren, because what we have here is not a given. It can be lost, it can be taken, and it can be forfeited. So on this day of Thanksgiving, though we're surrounded by so many things that may worry or even anger us, let's remember all the abundance we do have, the quality of life we enjoy, the freedom we cherish, the country we love, and all that it affords us, and why we fight for it. And that's your reality check, America. Happy Thanksgiving.